Hi, this is Fifo from Cheesecake Labs, and today I'm going to show you how to use the Stellar Asset Sandbox to issue and distribute your own asset in the Stellar testnet. The sandbox was created in a partnership between Cheesecake Labs and the Stellar Development Foundation as a tool to facilitate asset issuance and management in the Stellar testnet. Before we start, we have a few requirements. Since the sandbox does not hold any information about your accounts and your assets, it only makes use of information that is publicly available on-chain. So with that in mind, the sandbox is a non-custodial solution, which means it does not control your keys and therefore it does not control your accounts. For that, we're going to need a web browser extension called Freighter. Freighter is a Stellar wallet that allows you to create and manage your own Stellar accounts. You'll be the one controlling the keys, so you'll be the one signing and authorizing for the transactions. So for that, you can just click on this link and you'll be taken to the Chrome Store page. Here you can download and install the extension, and once it's ready, it's going to show up here on the extension bar on the top right. You can just click on the icon and you'll be able to access your wallet and manage the accounts. Now, as a best practice, we're going to need at least 2 accounts to use the Asset Sandbox. The first account is going to play the role of the issuing account, which is the account responsible for controlling the asset, minting new units, and managing which accounts have access to it, and so on. The second one is called the distribution account. The distribution account is used to hold the freshly minted units and is responsible for distributing them into circulation. So here in my Freighter account, in my Freighter wallet, I have a bunch of accounts already. So when you access it for the first time, make sure you have selected testnet. It has both options, mainnet and testnet, but the sandbox is only available for the testnet. Once you select the testnet, you can click on this icon to manage the accounts you have already. Here you can see I have a bunch of accounts already created. To create a new one, you can just click on this option, or you can also import by using the secret key or a hardware wallet in case you have one. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new one. Let me just input my password. And there you go. Now this account cannot be used yet because it needs some funds. So in order to gather some funds, you can use the friend bot, which will do that automatically. You just click on this button and the bot will create the account on the network and send some lumens to kickstart your process. So here you go, my account was created already and I have 10,000 lumens. So once you have done this process for 2 accounts, you are ready to go and use the Asset Sandbox. Now that we have our requirements done, let's go ahead and issue our first asset and control its supply. So let's get started and click on this button. And that's the first screen of the sandbox. To access the sandbox, we need to input the public key of the issuing account. So here in this demo, I've used some of these accounts. I'm gonna be reserving the account number 3 to be my issuing account and account number 4 to be the distribution account. So I'll make sure I have number 3 selected here, and I'll click on the key icon so it gets loaded automatically. So now you can see the sandbox has been loaded for my account number 3. And there are no tokens yet, my list is empty, so let's go ahead and issue the first token. Here down below you can see the forging area, and in this area we just need to input the issuer account, which is already there, the distribution account, so let me go ahead and select it from my Freighter wallet. Let me go account number 4, let me click on the key icon, and there you go, there are both my accounts. Now I'm gonna name my asset, and this is the asset code, so it's pretty much like XLM for lumens. I'm gonna call my asset cake, and I'm gonna leave the limit as is, so it takes the highest limit possible for the amount of the amount of units that my distribution account can hold. So let's click on submit, and right now it is prompting my wallet to authorize this transaction, so I can review everything. I can see if the information is correct, I can see how much I'm paying in fees, and I can approve that. By clicking on approve and inputting my password, the transaction has just been signed and the sandbox has submitted it to the network. So let's wait a little bit while it's being processed. And there we go. The transaction was completed already. If we click on this icon, we should see the transaction in the network. And there it is. This is the Stellar Expert Explorer, and here we can see the transaction hash, the information about my transaction, and here the first trust line that defines my cake token for the distribution account. So let me get back and see. Oh, there you go. In the list we have already the cake asset. We can see the address of the issuing account, and we can see that it has a total supply of 0 because it has no units yet. So to manage the supply and start managing the asset, we just need to click on it in this list, and we'll be taken to this screen. This screen is where you can manage your assets. So here we accessed it for the cake token, and here I'm gonna use the first tab to mint some new units. So I'll go ahead and input 100, so let's mint 100 units, and they are going directly to my distribution address, which is already here. So let me click on mint. It's gonna prompt me for authorization once again, so let me review the transaction. There we go. We're sending 100 units of cake from issued by this account to the destination account, which is my distribution account. There we go. How much I'm paying fees? Let's approve it. Let me input my password once again. And there you go. It was submitted to the network. It's being processed. It was executed already. Let me click on the link. And there we can see the transaction. It got executed, and 100 units of cake had been transferred to my distribution account. Awesome. So now if I look into my wallet, I should be able to see in my wallet number 4 that it has 100 cakes. Awesome. So I have my token, it's in the network, and I have units that I can send to other people. Now let me show you how to burn some units. So to burn some units, we are going to come to the burn tab, and the units are burned by being removed from the distribution account and sent back to the issuing account. So since the issue account cannot hold any balance for its own coin, because for its own asset, because it is the account that controls everything and mints it, so these units that are sent there are going to be destroyed. So let me say that I'm gonna burn 30 units, and they are going to be sent from the distribution address back into the issuing, so they are destroyed, they are burned. When I click on burn, it's going to prompt me to authorize this transaction. Let me approve it, input my password. And after a couple of seconds, it's going to be processed in the network, and I should be able to see the update. Okay, it was processed already. Let me see, and now we can see I have only 70 cake available in my distribution account. If I go back to the list, I can see that the total supply is now 70, so there's only 70 units in circulation right now. So that's how you manage the supply of your freshly minted token. Now let me show you how to distribute and transfer your asset among different accounts. So I'm gonna access my asset once again, and I'm going to navigate to the transfer tab. So here I will input the amount. I'm gonna try and send 10 units from my distribution account to a new account. So here let me select the account number 5, which hasn't interacted with my token yet. And I'm going to send these 10 units to them. Let me just click on the key icon to load the public key and click on transfer. Now I'm going to be prompted to sign and authorize the transaction. And it's going to be processed in a couple of seconds. There we go. But now, if I look to my account number 5, you see that my distribution account number 4 has sent 10 cakes, but my account number 5, it doesn't have any cakes yet. And why is that? Let me check that on the Explorer. You'll be able to see that the transaction was executed, but here you'll notice something. We use the claimable balance, and why is that? So in the Stellar network, accounts needs to establish a trust line with each asset that they want to interact that is not the native Lumen token. So when they don't have this trust line, other accounts cannot just send the token to them. They need to have the trust line. So what the sandbox does is that it identifies that this account has not interacted with the asset yet, and they send it as a claimable balance. A claimable balance is a different type of payment in which the amount is reserved until the account decides to accept it actively or reject it. And when they accept it, the trust line is established automatically. Now I'm going to show to you a quick hack on how we can add this trust line through the sandbox itself. So let me go back. So for my account number 5 again, we can just go back to the list, and we are going to use the forging area again, but instead of reforging the same asset, we are going to do that but for a different account. We are going to add the account number 5 here instead of the distribution account and mint the same asset. So what that does is, since the asset exists already, we are just going to establish the trust line for this new account. And once it's fully processed, let's just wait a couple of seconds. It should add the, oh, there you go. You could see that it didn't change anything. There's no new asset, but when I go to my account number 5, I should be able to see the cake here. So now it accepts the cake. I still have the claimable balance, which I can accept at any moment. But let's go ahead and do a normal payment. Let me access again, go to transfer, and I'm going to transfer 10 units from my distribution account to my account number 5. So let me just make sure it's selected here. Okay, click on the key icon and transfer. So let me approve the transaction, input my password. Now it's going to be processed by the network, and this time we should be able to see the amount being credited right away. So let me see. There we go. We have the tokens. Oh no, sorry, that's my distribution account. Let me move to the account number 5. There we go. Now we have the tokens. Now we received 10 cake that are already in my account, and I can just transfer. And I can use the transfer tab from my new account as well. So I could just change the source from the distribution to my account number 5. So instead of sending from the distribution, I'll be sending from the account number 5. And I could do the opposite. I could send the tokens from my account number 5 to my distribution account. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's give back 5 cake tokens to my distribution account. So here I have my account number 5 selected. And I'm going to switch to account number 4, which is my distribution and currently has 50 cake. I'll select it as the recipient address, and I'm going to transfer. Here I'm going to be prompted with a warning to tell me, hey, you're not using your distribution account. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I am. And the only requirement is that I must have the key that controls account number 5 in order to authorize a payment that is moving assets from the account number 5. So let me just review everything. There you go. 5 cake tokens are being sent from my account number 5 to my account number 4. Let me approve and authorize everything. And now it's going to be processed by the network, and we should see that my account number 5 now has only 5 cake. And if I go to my account number 4, it received the other 5 cake. So that's how you transfer and move around your tokens using the sandbox. Now, let me show you how to publish the asset information. That step is going to create a link between the on-chain information with the entity that controls the asset and the accounts behind it. So to do that, let me access my asset once again, cake. And now we're going to use these two tabs, home domain and generate TOML. These two are part of a standard created by the ecosystem and defined in the document called SEP1. So the idea is that this is a two-step procedure. The first step is to define which home domain is behind the account that control the asset. So for this, let's say I am part of Cheesecake Labs. So I'm going to add Cheesecake Labs.io as the domain that controls the accounts and the cake asset. And when I click on this button, the sandbox is going to create a transaction that inputs, let me just fix my password here. This transaction inputs the home domain in my account. So if I look the network, we did an operation called set account options, which defined that cheesecakelabs.io is the domain that controls this account. So this first step added information on chain pointing to the domain of the entity that controls that account. The second step is to create the inverse link. So we are going to generate a file called Stellar TOML, and in this file we are going to add a lot of information about this organization and information about the asset. So here I would add all of the accounts that the Cheesecake Labs control, all of the information about the organization, the logo of the organization, the assets that I'm controlling, what is the purpose, how I'm controlling the supply, and any useful information that I want to present to the users. And once I'm done with this step, I will click on this button and this will generate a file for me to download and host on my website. So this way, anyone that finds my asset on chain is going to look into the domain, find this information, and know for sure that the person that controls the account is the same person that controls the domain. So I'm gonna take another example from the network itself. So let me look at let me see. Here we have the USDC asset in the Stellar testnet. The USDC asset was issued by this account, so let's click on it. And here we should be able that this account has a home domain already, center.io. So this is the domain of the entity that controls this account. Therefore, they control the asset. So let me just check if this is really their domain. If I click on the domain, I will be taken to the website. And once it's loaded, I'm going to access a specific path where this file is hosted according to the standards. So I'll add /well-known/stellar.toml. There, I should find the TOML file with all of the information that I spoke before. So we can see all of the accounts that Center controls, and if the accounts match the account on chain that we just found, we can know for sure that the same person that controls the accounts is the same person that controls the domain. Therefore, we're linking the identity of both. And let me show you a nice trick that you can do with the sandbox, which is to let me get the issuing account of this USDC asset, and let me head back to the sandbox. So now, instead of loading the sandbox with my issuing account, I'm going to use this asset's issue account. And since I don't have their private keys, I won't be able to do anything because I will not be able to sign for any transactions. But since this information is public, I can probe around and see the information that is available on chain. So here I can see the assets they have, and here I can see the USDC asset I just mentioned. So let me access it. And if I go to the generate TOML file, to the generate TOML tab right now, the tab is going to load the existing file from their website. So the information comes pre-filled. I can just change it, I can just update it. So in case you have your asset with a TOML file that has been published already, you can use the sandbox to load the information and quickly make adjustments, make updates, add new assets, and just generate a new file that you can host on your website. So that's pretty much how you do to publish the asset information. Now, let me show you two advanced features for controlling access to your asset. So let me head back to my asset cake, and you'll notice that these two tabs at the end are disabled. And why is that? By default, when you issue an asset in the Stellar network, it is permissionless. Anyone can access, anyone can interact with it, and you can change that by customizing the profile of that asset. And that's done by enabling a set of flags in the issuer account that defines how the asset behaves. And here we have encapsulated two different profiles that implement the freeze and the clawback use case. So let me show you how to enable these two use cases. You go back to the main screen, and here you select the settings option. Here you can enable both freeze and clawback, and it's important to note that the clawback requires the freeze to be enabled as well. So once I click on save, I'll run a transaction, and this will allow my account now to use these two behaviors. So once they are enabled, all of the assets issued by this issuing account are going to be affected, and they are going to behave in that way. So my cake asset right now has both tabs enabled, which means that in the freeze tab, I can now freeze balances in target accounts. Let's say I'm running an investigation of malicious activity and I want to freeze the balance on account number 5, which we were using before. Let me run to it, and let me select account number 5 and click on freeze. Once I confirm it and approve the transaction, this account will then be frozen. And what that means is, even though it holds its balance, it is not able to perform any transfer. That balance cannot be moved. The only way to move that balance again is if the issuing account unfreezes that target account. So that's the first behavior. The second behavior is the clawback. Let's say we identified the malicious activity and we want to remove that asset. Let's say we want to remove them and repay the victim, so you can use the clawback. What the clawback does is that you select an amount. Let's say I want to claw back 5 tokens from a target account, and here I'm going to select my account number 6. Account number 6 has 5 cake, so once I run this transaction, let me just select and approve, these 5 cakes will be removed from the account number 6 and they're going to be burned from the supply. They are not going to be available anymore. And the ways you can do that, it was just executed. Let me just get back and show you. Account number 6, and there you go. It has no cake anymore. Those 5 cakes were burned and they are not part of the supply anymore. So this could be implemented in a use case as a secure way of removing asset from circulation and then reissuing and paying the victims or running with your regulatory decision. So these are the 2 ones that we have implemented. You can play around and enable just one or both or neither of those. The last feature I'm going to show you is the view only. The view only feature is a neat way to interact with friends and colleagues that are also using the sandbox, in case you want to allow them to load your asset list alongside theirs, but only with view permission. So let me just show you how to do that. Here I have my issuing account loaded, the same account that issued the cake token, and I'm gonna click on settings. So here in settings we have this portion for extra accounts. So here let me get my friend's account. Let's say account number 7 is my friend's account, and I'm going to add this account here, click on add and save. So once I do that, I'm making use of multi-signature on the Stellar network to create a link between both accounts, but a link with no permission for editing. So here we are using a signature schema which allows my friend to see my tokens as if they were theirs as well, but they have no permission to change anything or sign for any transaction. So it was executed already. So let me let me change the account here and load with my friend account number 7. So let me come with account number 7, select it, and there you go. Now you see that my friend has these other 2 tokens, Fifo tokens and Star tokens, which are theirs, and they can access and change anything, but they also can see my cake here, and it's showing as a read only. So my friend can see it in the list, he can access, but he won't be able to sign anything from my token. It's just a neat way of integrating together the tokens from different accounts. So that was it for today, and thanks for watching.